"It hurts down there too," she whispered. The rancher pulled back and froze. The rancher's days were usually quiet. He had lived alone on the outskirts of town for many years, ever since his parents had passed away and he inherited the small family ranch. The house was old but sturdy, made of wood that had weathered many storms, with wide porches and creaky floorboards that told the story of generations. His life was simple. He woke up early each day, fed the cattle, repaired fences, and walked the land to check on the water troughs and pastures. People in town knew him as a man of few words, quiet but dependable, someone you could trust to lend a hand if needed. That afternoon, the rancher decided to take a longer walk than usual. The sun was warm but gentle, casting soft golden light across the fields. He walked along a narrow path that ran beside a small creek at the edge of his property. This creek was shallow but clear, and it had always been a peaceful place. He liked the sound of water flowing over the rocks, the way birds would flutter across the surface, and the soft hum of nature all around. It gave him a sense of calm that he didn't often feel elsewhere. As he walked, he noticed something unusual. On a large, flat rock near the water, there was a young woman sitting alone. At first, he thought she might be someone from town enjoying a quiet moment, but as he got closer, he could see that something was wrong. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and her hair was tangled and damp, as if she had been caught in the creek or had fallen. She was holding her side, her body hunched over slightly, and her face looked pale and strained. The rancher's first instinct was caution, but concern quickly replaced any hesitation. He spoke softly from a distance, making sure he did not startle her. "Are you all right?" he asked. His voice was calm, steady, and non-threatening. The woman looked up quickly, her eyes wide with fear. She seemed startled by his presence, as if she had not expected anyone to be nearby. For a moment she didn't speak. She simply stared at him, trembling slightly. Then she whispered almost inaudibly, I'm hurt." The rancher nodded slowly, understanding that she needed help but also that she might be frightened of strangers. He remained at a safe distance. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you. Can you stand?" She shook her head, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. I don't think so," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He realized her injuries might be more serious than he had first thought. Carefully, he approached her slowly, keeping his hands visible so she wouldn't feel threatened. "I can help you," he said. "There's a place nearby where you can sit and rest, and I can check your injuries." The woman hesitated for a moment, glancing toward the trees behind her, then back at him. Her fear was evident, but she seemed to sense that he meant no harm. Slowly she nodded, letting him guide her gently from the rock toward the path. As they walked, he noticed more details. She had a small cut on her forehead, smudged with dirt, and a bruise forming along her cheekbone. Her clothes were torn in several places, and she winced with every small movement. But there was more than just the visible injuries. There was a quiet tension in her body, a weight of fear and vulnerability that he could sense even without words. When they reached a flat area near the ranch house, he led her to a bench and helped her sit down carefully. He retrieved a clean cloth and some water from his pack. "Here," he said softly, handing her the water. "Drink slowly. I'll clean your cuts." She accepted the water with shaky hands, taking tiny sips, and then allowed him to gently dab at the cuts on her face. He worked slowly, making sure not to cause her pain. He did not ask many questions. He had learned long ago that people who were hurt often needed care before conversation. She looked at him once, her eyes filled with gratitude and relief, but also with lingering fear. After a few minutes, he stepped back slightly and said, "You're safe here. I know it's been hard, but you're not alone right now." She nodded, swallowing hard. Her voice was barely audible when she said, "Thank you." The rancher decided to give her space for a moment. He walked over to the small garden beside the house, pulling a few herbs and soft cloths to help with her wounds. He thought about what had brought her here, about why she had been alone in the creek and why she was so afraid. But he also knew that asking too many questions too soon could make her shut down completely. Patience was important. After a while, he returned and offered her a blanket. "You can rest here," he said. "I'll be nearby if you need anything. No one will bother you." She hesitated, then took the blanket and wrapped it around herself. She looked at him with a mixture of wariness and trust. He could see the tension slowly leaving her shoulders, little by little. The rancher then went inside the house to prepare a simple meal, some bread, cheese, and warm soup. He placed the food on a small tray and carried it back outside to her. "Eat something," he said kindly. "You need strength." She took the food slowly, careful not to make eye contact at first. But as she ate, she began to speak in small fragments, telling him a few details of what had happened. She had been traveling through the countryside, trying to reach a relative in a nearby town, when she had slipped near the creek and injured herself. She did not explain much about her journey, but the rancher did not press her. He simply listened, nodding and offering reassurance. As the sun began to lower in the sky, the rancher realized he could not leave her alone here for the night. The idea of letting her return to the creek or wander the property while injured was too risky. "You can stay inside tonight," he said. "I'll set up a room for you. You'll be safer there." Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment she seemed unsure. I don't want to be a bother," she whispered. "You're not a bother," he said firmly but gently. "You've been hurt. Anyone would help in this situation. That's all that matters right now." Slowly, she agreed. He helped her to her feet, supporting her carefully so she did not stumble. As they entered the house, he noticed how tense her body still was, how every step seemed to be a struggle. He did not rush her. They moved slowly, with patience and care, toward a small guest room he had prepared in advance for visitors or workers who sometimes stayed overnight. Once inside, he placed a chair near the bed and said, "You can rest here. I'll check on you in a little while, make sure you're comfortable." She nodded again, settling onto the bed with a sigh. For the first time in hours, maybe days, she felt a small measure of relief. She was not alone. Someone was there to care for her, to offer safety and comfort without judgment or expectation. The rancher stepped outside the room for a moment, looking out at the fading light. He reflected on the fragility of life, on how quickly a peaceful day could turn into something dangerous. He thought about the courage it must have taken for her to get this far, and he felt a quiet admiration for her resilience. As night fell, he made a fire in the hearth, its warm glow filling the house with light. He did not force conversation. Instead, he gave her the time and space to rest. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the sounds of the creek and the distant calls of animals settling in for the night. Inside, there was quiet, but also a sense of safety and care that neither of them had expected to find that day. The young woman eventually closed her eyes, exhausted but feeling secure. The rancher stayed nearby, keeping watch from a short distance. He knew that tomorrow would bring more questions, more explanations, and maybe even challenges. But tonight, they could simply be two people in the midst of unexpected circumstances, finding a fragile peace in each other's presence. By the time the stars began to fill the sky, he had returned to his own chair, sipping warm tea. He thought about how life often placed strangers in each other's paths at the exact moment they needed one another the most. And even though the day had started like any other, it had become something different, something he would not forget. A day when patience, kindness, and calm had met fear, pain, and vulnerability, and had created a small moment of trust that might grow into something stronger with time. The next morning, the rancher woke before the sun had fully risen. Light filtered softly through the thin curtains, painting the room in shades of gold and pink. He stretched and went about his morning routine quietly, careful not to disturb the young woman still resting in the guest room. She had slept more soundly than he expected, though her face still bore signs of strain and discomfort. Her breathing was even and she seemed slightly more at ease than the day before. After breakfast, the rancher prepared a small basin of warm water, gentle soap, and soft towels. He brought them to her room quietly, knocking gently on the door. "Good morning," he said softly. "I brought something to help you feel more comfortable." She lifted her head, blinking slowly, and gave a small nod. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice still faint but a little steadier than yesterday. She looked tired, but there was a glimmer of trust in her eyes that had not been there before. The rancher helped her carefully to a chair by the window. "I'll be gentle," he said. "We don't have to do everything at once, just what you can manage." As he washed the visible cuts and bruises on her arms and legs, he noticed that her movements were stiff and hesitant. She flinched at certain touches, suggesting pain he could not see. He realized then that her injuries might be deeper than simple scratches or bumps. His concern grew, but he reminded himself to stay calm. Panic or alarm would only increase her discomfort. "Does it hurt here?" he asked gently, indicating a bruise on her shoulder. "Yes, a little," she admitted, her voice soft. She looked down at her hands, not wanting him to see how tense she had become. I don't like people touching me there," she whispered, hinting at a more private area of injury. The rancher froze for a moment, caught off guard, but quickly reminded himself to stay composed. He nodded calmly. "I understand," he said. "We won't do anything you're not comfortable with. We'll focus on what you can handle and nothing else. You're safe here." She relaxed slightly, though the tension in her shoulders did not completely fade. There was a mixture of relief and embarrassment in her eyes, and he recognized the courage it must have taken to even mention it. He did not press her for details. Instead, he finished the simple cleaning and drying with care, allowing her to maintain her dignity. Afterward, he helped her sit more comfortably on the bed. "I'll get you some clean clothes," he said. He returned with a loose shirt and soft pants that would not irritate her injuries. As she changed quietly, he gave her privacy, standing a few steps away and pretending to tidy a chair nearby. Once she was dressed, she sat back on the bed, taking a slow breath. "Thank you," she said again, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know what would happen when I woke up." "You're safe now," the rancher said firmly but kindly. "That's what matters. We'll take everything one step at a time." They spent the morning mostly in quiet. The rancher worked on small chores around the house while keeping an eye on her from time to time. Occasionally, she would look out the window at the fields beyond, her expression thoughtful. The sun warmed the room, and the gentle sounds of birds in the creek outside seemed to ease some of her anxiety. After a while, she spoke, her voice hesitant but determined. I need to tell someone about what happened," she said, glancing toward him. "But I don't know if I can," the rancher nodded. "You don't have to tell me everything, just what you feel comfortable sharing. No one will judge you here." She bit her lip, then began slowly. She spoke in fragments at first, her words halting and careful. She told him that she had been traveling alone, trying to reach a relative in another town. On the way, she had encountered someone who hurt her. She did not go into all the details, only enough for him to understand that she had been in danger and that her injuries were not accidental. The rancher listened silently, nodding occasionally. He kept his voice calm and soft, letting her know he believed her and that he was there for support. "You're brave for getting this far," he said gently, "and you're not alone anymore. That part of your journey is over for now. You can rest and recover." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears and she looked down, embarrassed by the emotion. I didn't know anyone would care," she admitted. "Most people would just look away." He shook his head. "Not everyone," he said. "Some of us believe in helping when we can. You didn't do anything wrong. You just needed someone to be there for you." By late morning, he could see that she was more comfortable moving around. The rancher helped her walk slowly to a small room with a chair by the window where sunlight poured in. He encouraged her to look outside and breathe, letting her know that she was allowed to rest and heal without rushing. Over the next few hours, they worked on small tasks together. The rancher taught her how to gently check her own movements to avoid straining her injuries, and she learned a few simple ways to relieve discomfort. She began to smile occasionally, a small but meaningful sign of trust and relief. As the afternoon came, the rancher suggested a short walk outside. At first, she hesitated, worried about pain or stumbling. He reassured her, offering his arm for support. Together, they walked slowly along the creek, taking in the gentle sound of flowing water. The young woman looked at the surroundings with wonder, as if seeing the world through new eyes. The wind rustled the leaves, the sunlight danced on the water, and for a brief moment she could forget the fear and pain that had haunted her. During the walk, she spoke a little more about her journey, carefully avoiding the painful parts. She shared stories of towns she had passed, fields she had crossed, and small acts of kindness she had witnessed along the way. The rancher listened patiently, asking gentle questions and showing genuine interest. His calm presence made it easier for her to share, little by little, without feeling pressured. By the time they returned to the house, the sky was turning golden with the approach of evening. She seemed tired but content, and the rancher could see that her body had been tested, but her spirit was slowly recovering. He helped her settle back inside, offering a warm towel and a place to sit comfortably by the fire. Dinner was quiet but pleasant. He brought her a simple meal, soup, bread, and fresh fruit. She ate slowly, savoring the warmth and comfort. For the first time in days, she felt like someone cared about her well-being without expecting anything in return. After dinner, they sat together by the fire for a while. The rancher did not push conversation, allowing silence to fill the room in a peaceful way. She finally spoke again, her voice soft but steadier than before. I feel safe here," she said, looking at him. "I didn't think I could feel that again." He smiled gently. "I'm glad," he said. "You deserve safety and care. That's what we all deserve." Later that night, as she prepared for bed, she looked at him with a small, grateful smile. "Thank you for today," she said quietly. I don't know what I would have done without you." "You're stronger than you realize," he replied. "And you're not alone anymore. Tomorrow will bring another day and we'll face it together, step by step." She nodded, settling under the warm blankets. The fire crackled softly, and outside the creek continued its gentle flow. For the first time since her injuries, she allowed herself to relax, knowing that someone was there to protect and support her. The rancher stayed in the room for a few more moments, ensuring she was comfortable. Then he stepped back, letting her rest. He reflected on the events of the day, how quickly life could bring danger, but also how simple acts of care and understanding could make a world of difference. He understood that helping her would take patience, but he felt a quiet determination to be there for her in the days ahead. By the time the stars began to appear in the night sky, a sense of calm had settled over the house. Both of them were tired, but the young woman's trust had grown, and the rancher felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew tomorrow would be another day of small steps, of care, and of rebuilding confidence. But he also knew that the bond of trust they had started to form would help her heal in ways no medicine alone could achieve. And as the fire flickered, the rancher realized that sometimes helping someone in need was not about grand gestures. It was about patience, kindness, and the willingness to simply be there when it mattered most. The next morning, the rancher woke early, as he always did. The soft light of dawn filtered through the windows, and the house was quiet except for the gentle rustling of leaves outside and the distant sound of the creek flowing over rocks. He stretched, poured himself a cup of coffee, and moved quietly through the kitchen. He didn't want to disturb the young woman, though he knew she had already been awake for a while, sitting by the window and watching the sunrise. When he entered the room with breakfast, she looked up at him and gave a small, shy smile. Her eyes were clearer now, the fatigue from the past days slightly lessened, though there were still shadows beneath them. She had been resting well, and that gave the rancher a quiet relief. "Good morning," he said softly, placing a small plate of warm toast and fruit on the table. "I made this for you. Eat slowly." "Thank you," she said, her voice a little stronger than yesterday. She picked up the toast carefully, mindful of the soreness in her hands and arms. "It smells nice," she added, smiling faintly. They ate in a comfortable silence at first. The rancher watched her carefully, noticing how her movements were becoming less tense, how she seemed more relaxed than the day before. Her body still held traces of pain, but her spirit appeared stronger, as if each small act of care was gradually restoring her confidence. After breakfast, the rancher suggested a gentle walk. "If you feel ready, we can take a short walk outside," he said. "You don't have to go far, just a little fresh air will help." She hesitated for a moment, looking down at her hands. I think I can," she whispered, "but slowly." "That's fine," he replied, smiling reassuringly. "We'll go slowly. I'll be right here." Outside, the air was crisp and refreshing. The sun shone through the trees, casting warm patterns of light on the ground. The rancher offered his arm for support, and she accepted it, their steps slow and careful. She winced at certain points, but each step seemed easier than the last. As they walked along the creek, the sound of the water flowing over the rocks filled the air, a soothing melody that calmed both of them. After a few minutes, she began to speak, her voice quiet but steady. I didn't know anyone would be so kind," she said. "Most people would just ignore me or look away." The rancher shook his head gently. "Not everyone," he said. "There are people who care, even if it's not always easy to see. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. That hasn't changed." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and surprise. "Thank you," she said softly. I don't know how to explain what that means to me." "You don't have to explain," he said. "Just know that you are safe. That's what matters right now." They walked a little further, and she began to relax more. The tension in her shoulders eased, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. She began to notice the details of the world around her, the way sunlight danced on the water, the gentle rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds. For the first time in many days, she felt a sense of peace, a sense that not everything in the world was dangerous or cruel. After returning to the house, the rancher suggested they sit by the fireplace. "It's warm inside," he said. "We can sit and rest. You don't have to do anything else right now." She nodded and settled into the chair, wrapping herself in a soft blanket. The fire crackled gently, casting a warm glow across the room. She looked at him and hesitated for a moment before speaking. I want to tell you more about what happened," she said softly, "but I'm scared." "That's okay," he replied calmly. "You don't have to tell me everything, just the parts you feel ready to share. We can take it slow." She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. Slowly, she began to explain bits and pieces of her journey. The long walks along dusty roads, the nights spent sleeping in barns or under trees, the fear she had felt when someone had tried to hurt her. She avoided the worst parts, but he could see the weight of her experiences in her posture, in the way her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. The rancher listened carefully, never interrupting. He offered soft words of encouragement, reminding her that she had survived, that she was not alone, and that it was okay to feel scared. He noticed small signs of trust growing in her, the way she looked at him when she spoke, the moments when she allowed herself to lean slightly toward him, and the faint but genuine smile that appeared now and then. Over the next few hours, they continued this gentle routine. He helped her with light stretches to ease her sore muscles, taught her how to move carefully without causing pain, and encouraged her to take deep breaths when she felt tension. She began to relax more each time, her confidence slowly returning. At one point, she paused and looked out the window, her voice quiet. I didn't think anyone would listen. I thought I had to face everything alone." "You're not alone," the rancher said softly. "Not anymore. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. It's okay to let someone help. Tears welled up in her eyes and she looked down, embarrassed. The rancher gently placed a hand on hers, offering reassurance without words. She felt a small warmth from the gesture, a reminder that she could trust him. Later, as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, the rancher suggested a simple activity to pass the time. "Would you like to help me with some small tasks around the house?" he asked. "Nothing difficult, just things to keep your mind busy and your hands moving gently." She hesitated at first, then agreed. They spent the next hour together, sweeping the porch, tidying small areas of the house, and organizing supplies. The rancher made sure every task was easy and safe for her to manage. She began to smile more openly, even laughing quietly at a small mishap when a broom slipped from her hands. The sound was light and genuine, and the rancher felt a quiet satisfaction in seeing her regain even a fraction of her former self. As the evening approached, they prepared a simple dinner together. The rancher guided her through easy steps, letting her participate without pressure. She chopped vegetables carefully, stirred the soup, and set the table with quiet focus. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of normalcy, a small but important reminder that life could continue after hardship. After dinner, they sat by the fireplace again. She leaned back in her chair, a soft blanket over her shoulders, and looked at him. I feel a little stronger today," she said quietly. "Not completely, but better than yesterday." "That's good," he said with a gentle smile. "Every step counts. Healing doesn't happen all at once. It takes time, patience, and courage. You're showing all of that." She looked down at her hands, thinking about everything she had endured. I never thought I could feel safe again," she whispered. "But I think I can here." "You can," he said firmly. "And you will, step by step, day by day. You don't have to rush, just take your time." The rest of the evening passed quietly. They shared small stories of their pasts, laughing softly at minor recollections, and the young woman began to open up more naturally. She spoke about her childhood, the small joys she had experienced, and even her dreams for the future. The rancher listened with interest, offering encouragement and gentle guidance, creating an environment where she could begin to imagine a life beyond fear and pain. As night fell, the young woman prepared for bed. She looked at the rancher with a soft, grateful smile. "Thank you," she said again, "for everything today. I don't know what I would have done without you." "You're stronger than you realize," he replied, "and you're not alone anymore. Tomorrow will be another day and we'll face it together step by step." She nodded, settling under the blankets, feeling a sense of safety she had not known in a long time. Outside, the stars began to appear, twinkling softly over the quiet ranch. The creek flowed gently in the distance, carrying with it the sounds of nature that seemed to whisper of calm, healing, and hope. The rancher stayed nearby for a few moments, making sure she was comfortable, before returning to his own room. He reflected on the day, realizing that the bond of trust they were forming was fragile but important. She had begun to feel safe, to regain her confidence, and to believe that kindness still existed in the world. And he, in turn, felt a renewed sense of purpose, understanding that his patience, empathy, and calm presence could make a real difference in someone's life. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be days of discomfort, moments of doubt, and challenges that neither of them could predict. But he also knew that trust, once given and nurtured, could grow stronger than fear, pain, or uncertainty. And for both of them, this was the beginning of something important, a slow, steady journey of healing, respect, and connection. The following morning, the rancher awoke to the soft light of dawn spilling into the kitchen. The quiet of the house was comforting, but he knew that today might bring new challenges. The young woman had made progress, but her healing was far from complete. The rancher understood that emotional wounds often ran deeper than physical ones, and sometimes the hardest part of recovery was facing what had happened in the past. He prepared breakfast quietly, placing a simple tray of toast, eggs, and fruit by the window. When she entered the kitchen, she moved carefully, her steps still cautious. Her face showed a mixture of determination and hesitation, as if she was ready to face another day but unsure of how much she could manage. "Good morning," the rancher said softly. "I made something for you, take your time." "Thank you," she replied, her voice steadier than before. She took the tray and sat by the window, looking outside at the sun rising over the fields. For a moment she was silent, absorbing the warmth and calm that surrounded her. After a few bites of breakfast, she looked up at him. I think I need to talk about more of what happened," she said. "I can't just keep it inside forever, but I'm scared." "That's okay," he said calmly. "We don't have to rush. You can share only what you feel ready to share." "I'll listen and you'll be safe here." She nodded, taking a deep breath. She began slowly, describing the events that had led her to the ranch. She told him about the person who had hurt her, the fear she had felt during those moments, and the long journey she had taken afterward. Her voice trembled sometimes, and she paused often, but the rancher stayed patient, offering a gentle presence without pressing for details. I never thought I would make it this far," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. I thought I would always be alone, always scared." "You're not alone," he said softly, "and you don't have to be scared anymore. You're safe here. You survived, and that's what matters. We'll face the rest together, step by step." Her tears fell quietly, and she looked down at her hands, embarrassed. The rancher gave her a moment, then reached out gently, resting a hand on hers. It was a simple gesture, but it carried reassurance, respect, and understanding. She felt a small warmth spread through her, a reminder that she could trust him. After some time, she managed to smile faintly. I feel lighter talking about it," she said softly. "But the memories, they still hurt." "That's normal," he replied. "Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to carry the memories without letting them control you, and you won't have to do it alone." The rest of the morning passed quietly. The rancher suggested small tasks that could help her feel more independent, like folding laundry, watering plants, and organizing supplies. He guided her through each step carefully, making sure she didn't strain herself. She began to enjoy the work, feeling a sense of accomplishment in completing even simple tasks. Each small success gave her a little more confidence, a little more hope. By midday, the rancher suggested a short walk outside. "Fresh air will help clear your mind," he said. "And you can move your legs gently without overdoing it." She agreed, and they walked slowly along the creek, the sunlight sparkling on the water. Birds chirped in the trees, and the gentle rustling of leaves created a peaceful atmosphere. For a while they walked in silence, simply enjoying the calm. Then she spoke softly. I never expected someone to care this much," she said. "Most people, they just look away, but you listen and you don't judge." "That's because you deserve kindness," he said. "Everyone does. You've been through a lot, and you should never feel that your pain isn't important." She looked at him, a mixture of surprise and gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. I don't know how to explain what it means to have someone believe in me." "You don't have to explain," he said. "Just know that you're safe and you're not alone." As they walked back to the house, she began to speak a little more about her hopes for the future. She didn't know exactly what she wanted yet, but the idea of having a safe place, a chance to recover, and someone who believed in her gave her a small spark of hope. The rancher listened, offering encouragement and reminding her that healing was a gradual process, and that she could take it one day at a time. Back inside, the rancher helped her with a few gentle stretches to ease her sore muscles. She followed his guidance carefully, moving slowly and breathing deeply. Each movement seemed to release a little tension, and she began to notice the strength returning to her body. Afterward, they sat together by the fire, sipping warm tea. She rested her hands on the cup, feeling the warmth seep into her fingers, and then looked at him quietly. I feel like I can face more now," she said. But the memories, they're still heavy. That's okay, he said softly. We'll face them together. You don't have to carry them alone anymore. For the rest of the afternoon, they continued small activities that allowed her to regain confidence without pressure. She helped him clean the porch, sort supplies, and even began reading aloud from a book he had in the living room. The sound of her voice was soft but steady, and each word seemed to strengthen her resolve. As evening approached, the rancher suggested preparing dinner together. She hesitated at first, worried about using her hands or moving too quickly, but he reassured her. Take your time, he said. I'll guide you through each step. Together they chopped vegetables, stirred the soup, and set the table. She laughed quietly at small mistakes, like spilling a little soup or dropping a utensil. The rancher smiled warmly, glad to see her lightening up after days of tension and fear. After dinner, they returned to the fireplace. She wrapped herself in a blanket and leaned back in the chair. I feel stronger today, she said softly. Not completely, but better than yesterday. That's good, he said. Every step counts. Healing takes time, but each small victory matters. You're doing very well. She looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. I didn't think I could feel safe again, she whispered. But I think I can here. You can, he said firmly. And you will, step by step, day by day. You don't have to rush, just take your time. Later, as she prepared for bed, she looked at him with a soft, grateful smile. Thank you, she said again, for everything today. I don't know what I would have done without you. You're stronger than you realize, he replied. And you're not alone anymore. Tomorrow will be another day and we'll face it together, step by step. As she settled under the warm blankets, a sense of calm washed over her. For the first time in a long while, she felt that healing was possible. Not just physical healing, but emotional and mental healing too. She realized that trust could be built slowly, and that with patience, support, and understanding, it was possible to face even the heaviest memories. The rancher stayed nearby, making sure she was comfortable before returning to his own room. He reflected on the day, understanding that her recovery would be gradual. There would be difficult moments, memories that hurt and fears that resurfaced. But he also knew that with continued patience, empathy, and guidance, she would continue to grow stronger. Outside, the stars appeared, twinkling gently over the quiet ranch. The creek flowed softly, carrying the sound of water over rocks, a peaceful melody that seemed to promise calm and hope. The rancher felt a quiet sense of purpose, knowing that he could make a real difference in someone's life simply by being present, patient, and kind. And for the young woman, that night brought a small but important realization. She could face the past and even carry its weight, because she no longer had to do it alone. With each day, each gentle word, and each small act of care, she grew stronger, more confident, and more willing to imagine a future beyond fear and pain. The morning sun filtered softly through the windows, casting warm light across the ranch house. The young woman woke slowly, stretching gently and feeling a sense of calm she had not known in a long time. For the first time since her arrival, she did not feel the sharp edge of fear in her chest. Instead, there was a quiet confidence and a sense of safety that had begun to settle in her heart. The rancher was already awake, quietly preparing breakfast. The aroma of warm bread and simmering soup filled the kitchen. When she entered, she smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and determination. "Good morning," she said softly. "Good morning," he replied, returning the smile. "I made something for you, take your time." As she ate, she realized how much she had grown in just a few days. Each small task, each gentle word, each moment of patience and care had helped her regain a measure of strength she thought she had lost forever. She had learned that healing did not mean forgetting, and that facing the past with support was possible. After breakfast, the rancher suggested a walk to the creek. She agreed eagerly, eager to enjoy the fresh air and the soothing sound of the water. As they walked slowly along the familiar path, she looked around at the landscape she had come to know so well, the gentle hills, the sparkling creek, the tall trees casting soft shadows. Each sight was a reminder of the peace and safety she had found here. I can't believe how calm I feel now," she said quietly. "A few days ago, I would have been terrified to walk here." "That's because you're stronger now," the rancher said. "You've faced your fears step by step, and you've shown courage that many people never find. You should be proud of yourself." She smiled faintly, a genuine warmth in her eyes. "I never thought anyone would help me like this," she admitted. "I thought I had to survive on my own." "You don't have to anymore," he said softly. "And you never will, as long as you're willing to accept help when it's offered. Strength isn't just about facing the world alone, it's about knowing when to let someone walk beside you." The young woman looked at him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. For the first time, she realized that trust was not a weakness but a strength. She had opened her heart to someone who had shown patience, kindness, and understanding, and in return, she had discovered her own courage and resilience. They returned to the house, and the rancher suggested small chores to help her continue regaining independence. She worked with focus and care, folding laundry, preparing a small meal, and organizing supplies. Each task completed was a reminder of her growing confidence and ability to care for herself. The rancher watched silently, offering guidance only when necessary, allowing her to take pride in her accomplishments. As the afternoon sun began to lower, the young woman paused to rest by the window. She looked outside, watching the gentle movement of the creek, the soft sway of the trees, and the golden light that bathed the fields. She felt a quiet joy, a sense of belonging, and a hope for the future that had seemed impossible only days before. I think I'm ready to start thinking about what comes next," she said softly. "I don't know exactly what that is yet, but I feel like I can face it." "That's a good sign," the rancher said with a gentle smile. "Recovery is about taking small steps, and you're doing wonderfully. Whatever comes next, you'll face it with the strength you've shown these past days." The young woman took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past lifting slightly. She realized that healing was not a straight path. It was a series of small victories, moments of trust, and acts of courage. And she had already achieved so much by allowing herself to be cared for, by speaking her truth, and by opening her heart to trust again. As evening approached, the rancher suggested preparing a small celebration for the progress she had made. Together, they baked a simple cake, stirred warm tea, and set the table near the fireplace. The act of creating something together brought laughter and lightness into the room, a reminder that life could hold moments of joy even after hardship. "This feels nice," she said quietly, smiling as she stirred the tea. "I haven't felt this comfortable in a long time." "That's the point," he said softly, "to remember that life can be gentle and kind, that it's possible to find peace and happiness even after difficult times." After dinner, they sat by the fire, enjoying the warmth and the soft crackle of flames. The young woman reflected on her journey, the fear, the pain, the uncertainty, and how far she had come in just a few days. She realized that the rancher's presence, his patience, and his unwavering support had given her more than just safety. They had given her hope, trust, and the courage to believe in herself again. I don't know how to thank you enough," she said softly. "You've done so much for me." "You don't have to thank me," he replied. "You did all the hard work yourself. I just walked beside you. You faced the fear, shared your story, and allowed yourself to heal. That's what matters." She smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and relief. For the first time, she felt ready to move forward, to imagine a future where she was not defined by the pain she had endured, but by the strength she had discovered within herself. As night fell, she prepared for bed, feeling a calm sense of completion. She realized that she could face the world outside the ranch, knowing that she had learned to trust, to be courageous, and to accept help when needed. She no longer felt the constant tension of fear that had accompanied her for so long. The rancher stayed nearby for a while, making sure she was comfortable before returning to his own room. He reflected on the journey they had shared, the small victories, the moments of trust, and the gradual rebuilding of confidence. He knew that her road ahead would still have challenges, but he also knew that she now had the strength and resilience to face them. Outside, the stars shone brightly, twinkling over the quiet ranch. The creek flowed gently, the sound of water over rocks a soothing melody that carried the promise of calm, healing, and hope. The rancher felt a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had made a real difference in someone's life, not by grand gestures but by patience, empathy, and unwavering support. For the young woman, that night brought a sense of completion. She had faced the past, shared her story, accepted help, and begun to heal. She realized that she could carry her memories without being controlled by them, and that trust, once given, could grow stronger than fear or pain. She understood now that healing was possible, and that she could continue forward with hope and courage. As she drifted off to sleep, she felt a gentle sense of gratitude and peace. The rancher's calm presence, his patience, and his belief in her had given her the foundation she needed to move forward. And for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine a future filled with safety, confidence, and possibility. The rancher, watching from a short distance, reflected on the journey they had shared. He understood that the simplest acts of kindness, listening, offering support, creating a safe space, could have profound effects on someone's life. He felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that he had helped someone rediscover hope, trust, and strength, and that his actions had made a real difference. The night passed quietly, filled with a sense of calm and hope. Both of them knew that the days ahead would continue to hold challenges, but they also knew that they were not alone. They had built a bond of trust, patience, and care that would support them both, and that would serve as a foundation for the young woman's continued healing. By the time the first light of dawn touched the fields again, the young woman was awake, feeling a quiet strength she had not known before. She looked at the rancher, who smiled gently at her. "Good morning," he said softly. "Good morning," she replied, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She realized that she had faced the darkest parts of her journey and had come through stronger, more confident, and ready to face the future. And as the sun rose over the ranch, it illuminated not just the fields and the creek, but the quiet triumph of trust, courage, and healing. The young woman had found safety, hope, and the strength to move forward, and the rancher had witnessed the power of patience, empathy, and quiet kindness in changing a life forever.